This meeting is being live streamed.
3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right. We are live and in living color, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube here on the Beyond the Curtain Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel. It has been a long time since I've done a podcast on my channel and on my stuff. B, done a podcast in general. I think the last time I did one, I was on a guest of Randall's podcast. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'm your host, Cody, as you can see here, looking like I'm a homeless guy that just came off the side of the street. It's chilly up here in North Kakalaki, so that's why I'm looking like, that I have no heat, but I do, I promise you. Joining me this evening on this late edition of the podcast, we've got the lovely Big Jim, James Beatley Jr., Buffalo James, as they like to call him. And then we've also got, I don't know what the name of your podcast is. Is it still Unhinged? I think it is. I didn't do my research before this. But anyways, the man, the myth, the legend, Randall Beatley.
It's a goddamn shame you don't pay attention.
Unbelievable. Already cussing. We're only 2 minutes into the show. This is going downhill quick. So the synopsis of this podcast, why are we doing this now on a Monday evening, December the 20th, 2021, the year of our Lord? First of all, none of you bitches wish me a happy birthday on this show at the moment. So
First off,
my birthday.
Fucker, I did.
Not on the show. I mean, yeah, social media wise, that's great. But I mean, right here, right now, you could have interrupted me on my own show and say, "Hey, happy late birthday." Didn't do that.
I live with you.
Fucker. And ain't one of you give a fuck that it's been 3 years since I had knee surgery to the day.
That's right. Was it the day after my birthday 3 years ago?
It was the day before, but
I had pilonidal cyst removal surgery about 4 years ago, and it still hasn't cleared up. If anybody knows what pilonidal cyst surgery is, don't look it up. You don't want to. Anyway, let's move on. This show, we're going off the cuff. I don't really know what's going to come about this. I initially wanted to do this show last week for the wrong reasons. And the reason was because people had, they had very strong opinions when it came to the CM Punk debate, I guess, if you want to call it. This shirt is what he showed up with on Dynamite. See if I can pull it up here for you guys. But while I'm trying to get that pulled up, did any of you guys see what Sir Punk wore on AEW Dynamite just this past week? Did any of you see that?
I would say if you're a wrestling fan and you didn't see it, then you're living under a rock. I mean, I didn't see it live, and really, if it wasn't for you mentioning it, I wouldn't have looked it up. But eventually, it became, like mainstream wrestling news. But yeah, I'm well aware of what he said or wore.
Yeah, and what about you? I mean, obviously, James, I believe you did, but did you see that? Obviously.
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't pick it up live while we were watching it. I don't think that's one of the things that I pick up on, like the t-shirts and whatnot of the wrestlers. I think that's the cool thing about AEW is there is a wide array of, you don't have to just wear your shirt. So it's not really anything that I really pick up on when live, but I saw the aftermath of it. So
yeah, so basically he came out with a shirt, and it was a blue shirt that said "Get your own, then tell it what to do." It was a picture, and I basically said this, and my wife corrected me on it pretty quickly. I I said vagina. It's not a vagina. It's a fallopian tube.
The
I believe.
fallopian tubes, yeah.
Yes, correct.
The reproductive system.
The reproductive system. That's exactly what I should have said. And well, yeah, here we are. But yeah. So he basically, he wore this shirt, and I'm still trying to pull it up here, so I apologize for it. Just give me 1 second, see if I can get this pulled up. Yeah, so he wore the shirt, which I mean, I didn't even see this on Dynamite initially. I didn't pay attention to it, didn't really care about it, and had no justification to it. I really didn't. But yeah, so apparently he wore this shirt on Dynamite, and once again, I had absolutely no correlations with it, didn't care about it, but apparently it created a huge stir on social media. So this is the shirt. I'm going to pull up here right now. Apologize for the delay in this.
If you can't get it up, I have it if you want me to share my screen.
Oh, don't worry about it. I got it, bud. We are making progress here on our first show back. So should come up any second. Hopefully it did. Did it show up on the screen?
It did, yes.
This is the shirt that CM Punk wore on Dynamite. And as you can see, that can definitely cause a stir.
So I think here is, in regards to this issue, why it was such a big deal, I think, to the wrestling world, is not necessarily because he wore it. Obviously, everybody knows where CM Punk stands, I think, politically on some of these things. If you didn't, then you don't follow him on Twitter or whatnot. He's pretty vocal about where he stands. I think it was such a big idea because they were in Texas last week, and Texas is one of the states that are trying to will have banned abortion from a certain time period. I think that was what made it such a big deal. I think everybody was saying that Punk was brave or courageous or whatnot for wearing it out there, and AEW for allowing them, to do that. That they, are representing that side in a state that maybe isn't so thought of as a progressive or state, or a state that holds to that view.
Yeah, and I think that it's ridiculous that the fact that we have this whole problem and this whole debate right now. I don't see why we need to have this. I give kudos to Tony Khan. I give kudos to the whole AEW roster for allowing these guys to have a voice, allowing these guys to have an opinion. And I think that, it is, to me, it is such a shame that people just cannot have their own opinions. I don't understand why we can't just allow people to share their opinions and their viewpoints freely.
Right.
And the problem that I see with it is that if you can't freely express your opinion in any circumstance, not just wrestling, but I mean in any circumstance, then what's the point? To me, as a Christian, whatever, it is what it is. Glad that you're able to put your opinion. But then we ridicule Brian Pillman for what he wore.
Mm-hmm.
That just irritates me. Like, we are giving so much hoopla to CM Punk for what he wore, but God forbid we ridicule Brian Pillman for what he wore. And I don't care what your opinion is as well. Cancel culture. That should not be what it is. I get it. I really do. And I think that people just need to understand that everybody has an opinion. Nobody's going to agree with your opinions 110% of the time. That's how it's supposed to be in the world. But yet, once again, we have people that
If-
feel that, F your opinion. I like my opinion more. Your opinion doesn't matter. Bullshit, in my opinion. But yeah. And I mean,
if I could step in real quick though,
yeah.
I 100% agree. He can have his opinion. However, I'm not mad at CM Punk. Like James said, we all know where he stands. My issue, as previously noted on my episode of my podcast called "An Open Letter to Tony Khan," is with Tony Khan, and apparently bad business decisions doesn't fall far from the family tree. Shad hired Urban Meyer. He allows this on his programming. I could care less about the opinion or what the statement was. First off, CM Punk thought he was being edgy. He's not. Texas isn't as progressive, especially the area they were in, or isn't as conservative, is more progressive than people think they are. There's a chance that, politically that state could turn blue in 2022. However, I don't care about any of that. Have your opinion. That's fine. From a business standpoint, though, knowing I personally wouldn't have aired that. It would be like having a character or a member walk out with a MAGA hat on. You wouldn't do it. It's just bad business because it's divisive. And so to me, it isn't the shirt that I was upset with. It was the fact that it was cleared to be on TV from the first place. Now the sponsors probably wouldn't be upset with it because most of their sponsors are on the left. And so the statement they would agree with. I just think fan base wise, there's a lot of Trump supporting fans who support the company. And I just wouldn't risk, dividing those people from watching the company over something as stupid as that shirt was. Me personally, I just thought it was bad business.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, hopefully everybody can see the picture that I posted here regarding what Brian Pillman. This was posted on his Instagram. I'm pretty sure, I don't think he wore this.
It was
on
not.
TV.
It was not on TV, and I agree with you. If Punk is allowed, and I agree, if Punk was allowed to wear what he wore on TV, the same standard, and that's where a lot of, I think, my issue also comes in, is there's a different standard for the progressive message than it is for the more conservative message. And so people are going to hate on Pillman for saying, hey, cancel culture shouldn't be a thing, which I think everyone should agree with. Like, cancel culture, no one should be canceled for having an opinion. So, I mean, I just feel there's a double standard among the fan base. But I mean, I've said this a lot. The fan base is for wrestling is and has been fairly progressive since the early 2000s. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else left to really.
This whole show is not going to be about what's right and what's wrong,
right.
Which side of the political spectrum we fall under, and what is right and wrong in the wrestling business. I just think it's ridiculous that we allow one viewpoint to come across on national television, but yet when somebody else has an opinion and wasn't even shown on national television, we ridicule him. Let everybody have an opinion. Right. Of course, if it involves, I mean, hey, you're gay, I hate you, you need to die. That's one thing. Or
right.
I hate you, you need to die in general.
I mean, it was even to the point when Undertaker still wrestled because he was either pictured with Trump or something, where people started saying, oh, we can't support Undertaker, where it wasn't Undertaker as a character, it was Mark Calloway online with a political statement. Or Drake Wirtz, the referee in Florida, who actually is now running for District 2 in Florida, I think. Um, he got fired for his political beliefs. And so, I mean, I'm with you. People should be able to have their opinion, whatever it is. That is what it is. We can debate that on a different show, but
I think it comes down to, and Cody, we had this conversation off screen earlier. When we watch entertainment, whether it be, listening to a sports show on radio or watching wrestling or watching football or basketball or whatever entertainment source, even the movies we watch and whatnot. And if everything now is seemingly becoming politicized to the point that you can't even watch anything anymore without there being some sort of message on one side or the other. And I think maybe the point should be to make wrestling about wrestling and not necessarily some sort of political message. I think you can have your political opinions, yes, but leave that in your personal life. And if you're a wrestler, make your political points outside of the live TV show. Like if CM Punk wanted to wear that shirt backstage, so what? Let him do what he wants. If Brian Pillman wanted to wear his sweatshirt backstage like he did, so what? Let him do it. But like when you're in character, let's not have the characters have a political message. Let's just let them be an entertainment source for both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the biggest thing that pissed me off about the whole thing was that we literally just didn't even give a crap about the whole episode of AEW. It boiled down to those last few minutes when Punk came out to save Sting and Darby. That was literally most of my timeline on Twitter, which is filled with mostly AEW fans. I'm not going to lie, but I tried to branch out and get as many different viewpoints and different fans as possible. That was kind of the main thing that they were posting about was the shirt. It was in Texas. I wonder how Sting feels about this because Sting is a Christian, and it's like why that we literally just threw away a whole episode for 5 minutes of somebody's T-shirt that they wore, whatever the message may have been. I just hate that.
If I can interrupt real quick to answer James's point, I even saw some people theorize that is going to be CM Punk's character because apparently the Long Island show he dissed the crowd there, and so apparently his gimmick is going to be him doing things that piss off the home crowd, which I mean isn't much of a gimmick to begin with. But there's a lot of other things you could do in Texas to get that cheap heat.
Right.
So
Well, you saw that with MJF when they were in Cincinnati, and he didn't hit like some super political point. He hit Brian Pillman's dad and his mom. Like that's how you get heat character to character, not with some big political message.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I think that the days of and listen, I understand that we're not, top echelon in the wrestling business. We're, three peasants that have opinions on it, just like a lot of people do, and everybody
I ain't
is
no
entitled to
fucking
their
peasant.
opinion. Sorry.
A peasant's a bird. Do I look like a bird to you?
That's a
Look at
pheasant.
that beak for a nose you got on you there, son. Come on now. What are you talking about?
That's a pheasant, not a peasant. A peasant was somebody.
Anyways, we're just three fools that have opinions, which everybody's entitled to. To me, looking at a lot of different wrestling film over the last some odd years, and I'm going back to the 80s and even 70s, we're so afraid of somebody who's wanting to generate heat. And I'm talking about wrestling wide. I think MJF is as close as we've seen to the Nature Boy Ric Flair heel, to the Harley Race type of a heel, to the, dare I say, maybe the Rock type of heel. I mean, somebody doesn't care about generating heat. Somebody doesn't care about generating talk, and it doesn't matter what the talk is. To me, if people are talking, it's a good thing. And I don't know. It just seems like people nowadays are,
I'll say it for you. People nowadays are soft.
yeah,
Like you look back to the last time they were in Charlotte. I mean, we were in that show, and Max Caster got a whole bunch of, he got kicked off the show for what, a couple weeks, couple months for the heat that he drew, and like 30 years ago, what he said would have been said on a weekly basis on the show. And I don't think anything he said was deeply. I don't think it deeply crossed a line. It may have been a little bit, raunchy, like speaking to 18 or 19-year-old girl with what he said there. But I don't think it crossed the line in any such way. He didn't it was character to character. It was not like a backstage conversation where he said something sexually harassing her or whatnot. It's just a character thing.
Oh, sorry. Like Sammy does. I mean,
Well, that's another conversation for another time. But I don't know. Like, we have this fan base, a specific group of wrestling fans who
don't say specific. It's the whole fan base. It's the whole fan base.
But they want.
If you've never been to an indie show, it's the whole fan base.
That's particularly true. But where I was going was they always are like, we need good heels, we need attitude era level heels. But the second that we try to bring an attitude level heel who gets cheap heat and gets heat very good, Max Caster, MJF, some of the, I don't really watch a lot of WWE, but I'm sure there's a couple on that end that try and get a little bit of heat that way. We kind of shove them to the side as like, you're being too inappropriate, and it's like, you can't have it both ways. You either have the attitude era level heels and the action of the attitude era, or you can have this progressive movement and kind of divide the fan base based off your political opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to try to start doing a lot more of this stuff in 2022, whether just going live or just posting new episodes of the podcast. Try to get back into it. When you don't do it for so long, you get the itch to do it again, and then when you try to do it more and more, sometimes you get burnt out by it. So it's a hobby. It's nothing more than just that. But I want to do a series where, if not a series, maybe just opinionated live shows or opinionated episodes of maybe topics that feel strongly about. For instance, I think in the near future, maybe one of the first episodes of 2022, I'm going to create an episode of why the Attitude Era was trash. It's going to be an interesting topic. I think some fair points will be had on that. So I feel like Randall would be interested in that show.
Forewarning, he's going to diss Vince Russo a lot.
I'm not showing up because we've already had this fucking debate.
It's not gonna be a Vince Russo trashing. I promise you, it really is not.
Not the whole time. He'll have one whole episode on it though.
I mean,
I will have a trash on Vince Russo in WCW, but not so much on Vince Russo in the WWE.
If you're talking from a pure wrestling standpoint, yes, it was.
We're not gonna get into this now. I said that's gonna.
Oh no, we're getting into no.
No, we're gonna wait till that.
Okay.
Moving on. Speaking of the Charlotte show, like Jim mentioned.
I mean, he does look like a Jim with that beard. Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Like you just got done getting off the cast of Harry Potter, son. I mean, what the hell you got going on there, Hogwarts?
Sure you're not Jim the Anvil Neidhart?
Yeah, Gryffindor. Anyway. Puff. So, speaking of that, Tony Khan, I need to have a word with you.
Mm-hmm.
This whole crap about beating Fox News, stop. First of all, stop. All right. I don't care if you beat them in one demo. You are 3 million viewers behind them.
Can I speak to something though? Because this is what my whole open letter in my podcast. I'm going to give you a gist of what my podcast was to him on this. I looked at his ratings, the exact pictures he tweeted. He won in the 18 to 49, which is fine. But his strongest demo, the biggest demo that he had for the last Wednesday's episode, was the 50 plus. That was the highest demo he had, which is rare for that show. Still, I think it was like a 0.4 all the Fox News shows 2.5s, 2.7s.
Yeah, I don't. Listen, the demo only goes so far. When the total
And
viewership is so far ahead of yours, like there's no
right.
comparison. There's no comparison.
And that's what my main point is. And I could care less about the demos. The demos are for advertisers.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more proof Disco, as much if you care about this guy or not. Disco Inferno, great attitude era talent. uh he I don't know, this was about a year ago. He basically said that he believes that a lot of advertisers, because the average age of human beings are going up, that a lot of advertisers are looking at the 25 to 54 group. AEW still beats WWE in that category, but the whole focusing on the 18 to 49, most advertisers really don't care about that group anymore. But yeah, the number I care about is how many viewers watched your show from start to finish. And you're about 3 million behind everything that aired on Fox News.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm an AEW lover and supporter. I mean, hell, I got the damn flag behind me here. I mean, my biggest thing is I appreciate you defending your company. You're the owner of the company. You're the spokesperson of the company. I appreciate you trying to, say, hey, listen, you can talk about that, and we did beat you in a certain demo. That's great and fantastic, but come to me when your company gets the nod from the alcohol industry. By that, who does alcohol sponsor in sports? NASCAR, football, the NBA, I would assume, MLB,
Mhm.
the NHL, with sports that some people would view is a struggling company with the NHL. I don't think they are anymore with their ESPN deal, but
And the problem with their ESPN deals, most of their games are on the app.
yeah,
So
I understand why beer companies and alcohol companies don't go to wrestling. I kind of get that, but at the same time, if they're in the
well,
UFC and MMA and boxing, what's stopping you from going to pro wrestling?
I think a lot of it is the audience. Like they're never going to do WWE. WWE won't allow it because of who their target audience is.
Right.
The under
AEW
21.
doesn't target kids.
Right. The problem is the TV show is still, you're still rated PG, correct? Or are you PG 14?
Pretty sure they were
13.
TV 14.
Because that rating, I don't think alcohol is allowed to. I think you have to be rated mature, and I could be wrong, but
I'm not saying you're totally wrong, but I mean, I feel like, they advertise it in NHL games and NFL games.
Right. Well,
But
I don't think it necessarily have to do with the TV ratings. It may, I don't know. I think, and you saw the alcohol industry, like PBR tried to get on with Matt Cardona and all of them, Nick Gage, when they were featured on AEW. I just don't think they had a very good, like no one cared for the promotion of PBR when it was focused, or it wasn't pushed very well with AEW. I think the hardest part with advertising like an alcohol is it's like you'd have to give them premier money to advertise their show. Like, NASCAR has the vodka, official vodka. I think Dixie Vodka runs NASCAR, and they have, I think Budweiser is their beer. And
yeah, it's not Bud anymore. It's Coors, isn't it? The Coors Poll
that was
Award
Bush.
now.
But anyways, they still
It's
have
the Bush
one.
Poll. Okay.
But regardless, every other major sport, they have their official alcohol or whatnot of that sport. And with wrestling, it's really hard to do that because you would have to give them almost exclusively the best ad spots on every show. And that's very hard to run a wrestling business, when you kind of want to diversify. Like State Farm, it seems like, is where AEW is given the like exclusive contract to for advertising. Their podcast is sponsored by State Farm. All their shows essentially have some sort of State Farm sponsorship shown on it.
I'm pretty sure every the first commercial break that they do, it's the first thing they say is presented by State Farm. So,
right. So
I mean, State Farm's paying big bucks.
And
oh yeah,
probably so, but I would tend to agree on the whole idea of Tony Khan not really going after a major news network. Like,
I would just be fine if he just shut the hell up to begin with.
but to me, you kind of get Tony Khan. I don't know if it was Cody that said this or somebody else that said it, but I read somewhere that they're getting like early day ECW Paul Heyman vibes from Tony Khan, where he's just trying to like.
I did mention that.
He's trying to overhype the show to be something greater than the statistics really show, and sometimes his mouth can get ahead of him, and I try to support Tony Khan in every fashion I can because I do like the product that he has, but that I don't know, it's just not a good move. But also at the same time, did Fox News really have to, kick down a up and coming show? I don't know if Fox News really had to include that in the Urban Meyer article that they posted. So
no, they didn't have to. I don't know if that was just a way to. I don't know if that was just that journalist's mindset to go after that or whatever the case may have been. But I mean, it got attention, and I think that any exposure is good. Well, I shouldn't say any exposure, but exposure is good unless
Right.
it's absolutely horrible exposure. But
Well, there's no such thing as horrible exposure, though. If your name's if your names are in the major news, you could be shit on, but that's still people talking about you.
this is true.
And so, to the fact that Fox News even had the gall to mention a company that has hit 1 million views maybe 3 times in its history.
I think it's been a few more than 3.
I think it's been at least 5 or 6. But anyways, I get what you're
The fact that,
I mean,
the fact that to the mainstream audience, there's
like
300 million people in this country, and 1 million people watch their product. And so, how many people watch Fox News on a daily basis? And so, the fact that they even included them at all exposed them to a larger audience. Now, is any of them going to watch it? Probably not. But you still got that exposure. I mean,
yeah, I would definitely agree with that for sure. In transitioning to that, staying on the topic of Tony Khan, another reason why you and I need to have a chat friend. So I have been to both AEW shows in Charlotte. Both of them were Dynamites. I think both of us have been to those shows.
painfully.
One of them that said they would not go, and they fucking still went. You son of a bitch.
Hey, look.
You're lying.
I got cheap ass seats.
You're lying. Anyway.
And not only did you go, but you stayed longer than we did.
Yeah, that was a long night.
Well, that was a mistake.
It was a mistake not putting on the damn AC. I'll tell you that much. That was the mistake. That building was hot as hell, and I don't mean the crowd. I mean the crowd was great for the first half of the show, and I think we all started.
I don't remember it being
like,
that hot. I don't remember it being that hot the first show.
No, not at all. And so they're having their upcoming show in Charlotte, the third in AEW's history, Battle of the Belts. I don't think they're going to need AC for the show because it should be 30 degrees outside. We'll see on that.
Can we call it a show?
Yeah. So the reason why I'm calling this out with AEW, when you go to a show, in my opinion, and I am not bashing WWE on this at all. WWE, you get, if you're at a Raw or a SmackDown, typically you're going to get at least 3.5 hours of action. Taping of a superstars or a main event, and then the show, and then maybe a dark match or two after the show.
I don't think they do superstars anymore.
They probably don't. This is how
I think the only thing they do is
main event still.
Do they do main event? I know they do 205
sure
live. I know they do 205. I don't actually give 2 fucks about it, but
I don't care about it either. I know they still do the tapings though, but I mean, you know what I mean. They still give you
right.
They give you a bang for your buck for sure.
Right.
AEW does the same exact thing. 4 hours just about of wrestling, 2 of
Or
which are on
6.
TV. Yeah, depending on how long it is. And then, of course, you get your 4-hour pay-per-views. So AEW is running, they're doing quarterly specials on TNT since they're making the move to TBS January 5th for Dynamite. And then I think Rampage is going to stay on TNT. But Dynamite's moving on Wednesday nights to TBS starting January 5th. My thing about that is so they're going to have quarterly specials on TNT, preferably Saturday nights, once per quarter. They're going to have one in January the 8th, Charlotte Battle of the Belts. I'm assuming Battle of the Belts is paying homage to the Clash of the Champions that TBS used to run with WCW back in the 80s and the 90s. Tony Khan has come out today and stated that Battle of the Belts is going to be a 1-hour show. A 1-hour show. Tony, if you're going to make this a big hoopla, that you're going to have a quarterly special live on free television on a Saturday night in prime time and a 1-hour show, to me, is a ripoff. And the reason why, Clash of the Champions from WCW, I believe, was a 2-hour show, just about every single Clash of the Champions. Why are we... And see, when people go to Rampage, when it's live, it's an hour show too, but it was already announced as an hour show previous to that.
Right.
So you already knew what you were getting. They announced Battle of the Belts about a month ago, and maybe a little bit less than a month ago, and yet today, 18 days or so before the show, we're just now hearing it's an hour live show. They've sold over 4,000 tickets for the show, which is great. They beat the first Dynamite in Charlotte, I believe the second Dynamite, the Fight for the Fallen, back in July, had like 6,000 people. And I know that they're going to try to hit that mark again, if not exceed it. There was already hype for this show because it's a Saturday night show. You're expecting a pretty big card, a pay-per-view-esque card, where at least all the championships, or a majority of the championships, are on the line on that show. And yet you come out and say it's an hour-long show. As a fan, I'm pissed. I bought tickets for the show. Granted, I didn't get the $70 tickets that I bought for the 2 Dynamites, because I've already been to those shows. They're great shows, but I didn't feel the value was any better sitting a little bit higher than I did for the second Dynamite than the first, and I still pay the same price. So why am I going to pay that again? I paid $30-$40 price tickets, sitting a little bit higher, still going to be at the show. Going to have fun, I'm sure, but it still irritates me that this was built as a quarterly special on a Saturday night prime time. You have all the makings to make your own splash, to make it a pay-per-view type show. And you're going to put it as a 1-hour show. To me, that's a ripoff. What say you?
Well, what say me is, for how is this not the show they're going to crown the TBS Women's Champion or whatever, right?
No, so that will be on the Dynamite 3 days before.
The Dynamite before,
okay. On TBS. Yes.
Okay. Well, that changes my statement, but even still, how the fuck do you? If it's called Battle of the Belts, like, I'm with you with Clash of the Champions, which is WWE's version, or Clash. I don't even think they did Clash of Champions this year, but when they did, every belt was up for grab. You would expect the same out of, and how do you do? I mean, you just had a fucking 60-minute match for the world title on Dynamite. I would be irritated as well if you're telling me, hey, we got to put in 3-4 title matches in an hour. That, I mean, quite honestly, that sounds like something WWE would do. Quite honestly, that sounds like something they would do for a Crown Jewel type show. That's interesting because, typically, I don't know if the AEW roster is, because they're used to 20-30 minute matches each match for the most part, and I just don't know if they're gonna be. That's gonna be a spot fest from hell, and to get everything in 10 minutes. Unless they're only gonna show like 3 matches.
So the only thing, and this, I'm going to credit comicbook.com for the article. This is where I got this from. That was posted today at 5:30. Connor Casey is the author of this. Want to give credit to where credit is due. And it's so ridiculous that it came out as an article. He didn't post it on AEW's social media accounts. He didn't have a live show. He didn't have a post media scrum after Full Gear. No, this was, or a post media scrum in general, or a conference call. This was on a article written about this. The only confirmed, this article was written by comicbook.com, but Tony Khan confirmed this on the Culture State podcast, that the show is going to be an hour long. The only announced match we have at the moment is Riho versus Britt Baker for the Women's Championship. And per Tony Khan on this article says, it's a 1 hour event, so I can't put every belt on the line. It's a great chance on a Saturday night to expand the reach of AEW by giving the fans great championship matches on a Saturday night, which is a night people love watching wrestling, especially for a big event. There's going to be big championship matches. I'm very excited about it. So at that point, you're not putting it plural, matches. So we're just going to have a TBS championship, TNT championship, women's title, tag title. I mean, you can't have a world title match on the show. You can't do it.
Well, you just had your
a
world title match. So I mean,
yeah,
you can't just
do it on the show. You're going to be doing it on the dark show, on the dark matches. We already know who's going to win the fucking match. Stop. I mean,
here's my issue with this whole idea of this being a 1 hour show. So AEW is missing a very big opportunity to use these quarterly specials, kind of almost in the same way that Impact uses Impact Plus in their like quarterly specials they put on there, to kind of have a short-term story within a long-term story. Because like you have like 4 main pay-per-views in Impact, for example, and 2 or 3, maybe 2 Impact Plus exclusive shows in between each pay-per-view, and those shows are 2.5 hours long, I believe, if you watch them, and they're typically in smaller venues, and I feel like these quarterly specials should be something like that, a 2-hour show that isn't a Dynamite, but has a almost pay-per-view like feel, but isn't a 4-hour long show. And you can have 6 matches, I think that's how many champions they'll have now. Tag, TBS, TNT. They might have 4 or 5 different belts that they can put on.
They have 5, counting the
TBS. And you could put 5 matches on in a 2-hour time frame. The thing that you got to remember is you're going to have ad spots that you're going to have to fill in this hour, unless they go commercial free, which I doubt they will. And then you have to have some sort of promo work to build stories for after this show. So you're not going to get an hour full of wrestling. You're going to probably get 35 minutes full of wrestling. So I think that's the issue that I have with it, is they had this opportunity to build it to be kind of like not a pay-per-view, but give you a pay-per-view card on a Saturday version of Dynamite. And they kind of missed the mark on this show.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that in the end, if they would announce that previous to that, I still probably would have went to the show. But it's like, you're going to do 1 hour on TV on what? And 3 hours worth of dark matches. And to me, that's not what I want to see. If I want to see a house show, you'll label it as a house show. I'll decide if I want to come to that.
Right.
If you're going to put me on a TV special, I would expect a TV special would be a 2 or 3 hour special. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Can't truly judge the product until it's out there. I just hope that this doesn't hinder ticket sales, that people are going to say, really, it's only going to be a 1 hour show. Why would I want to come out and see that? Hopefully it does.
I would also say you had a chance to, that's going to be a busy week of wrestling. Yep. The first, you'll have day 1 for WWE. That Tuesday, they're doing their special NXT. It's I don't know, some evil kills or something like that. New Year's Evil, that's what it's called. That they're doing that Tuesday. So you had a chance to win the week with a special like this.
I don't think they could win the week because you missed one. Wrestle Kingdoms that week as well, Tuesday through Thursday. So
yeah, remember Wrestle Kingdoms now is a 3-day show versus 2.
Right. And then you have WWE's doing their big super show on that Sunday in Boston. It's basically Raw and SmackDown together. It's not on TV, but speaking of which, they took off the Thursday or the Tuesday or Friday night SmackDown. They haven't replaced it yet. The show before day one that's supposed to like end up this yeah, they haven't replaced it yet on Ticketmaster. So
that might be a problem.
um
Probably just gonna be a tape special, like a year recap. Which it is what it is. I don't blame them. I just think that overall, AEW's got a prime opportunity right there to capitalize in the week of wrestling, having that Saturday night show, truly cap off the entire week of wrestling. And
is Wrestle Kingdom that Saturday?
No, Wrestle Kingdom is on the 4th. That's the first night, I believe.
Okay.
So that's Tuesday.
through
Wednesday's
Thursday.
the 5th, night 2, and then Thursday the 6th is night 3. So
And then I think they typically is New Year Dash going to be before Wrestle Kingdom, or they're going
as
to
far
do.
as I know, I don't know. I need to keep up with that. As far as the traditional was New Year's Dash was the night after Wrestle Kingdom. I believe it was after the second night of Wrestle Kingdom. It's not labeled as New Year's Dash that third night. I know that much.
Right.
So 3 straight nights of wrestling on that big of a platform to me is too much. We'll
Mhm.
see. They were the ones that capitalized on the 2-night event. WWE switched that to a 2-night event with WrestleMania.
Boy, imagine if
so-
they made WrestleMania 3 days.
Oh God,
I swear that they don't have
2 nights would be in. 2 nights is more than enough, and I'm not against that. I'm really not. But man,
They should have made our WrestleMania. We went 2 nights long.
I do wish
God,
WrestleMania
that's
went 2 nights. Yeah. That was a lot to take in. The crowd was exhausted by the Roman Taker match, and they already knew what was going to happen and were pissed beyond belief, and people were walking out a little bit. But that's a whole different topic for a whole different story. But
exhausted. I fell asleep.
so you fell asleep halfway.
they
through
were
the damn
exhausted because they had to
match.
wait 3 hours in line to get a drink.
I didn't even get a damn drink because slow ass cashier woman wanted to take her damn time.
Yeah. That's,
Ridiculous. Had to go through a whole damn 4.5-hour show, 5-hour show in the Florida sun with no drink.
mm.
And that hot dog only won. Those grilled hot dogs only won so far.
But back to the main topic at hand. I think AEW have this opportunity to test out, like they had Saturday night shows before, Dynamites when like basketball is going on Wednesdays or whatnot on TNT, but they had this opportunity now to test out like a big show on TNT and market this to be like a free pay-per-view essentially. And I think that's the step they missed. Was to me now it just kind of seems like it's a rampage almost essentially.
Exactly.
And what's the value in having quarterly rampages when you have rampage every Saturday or every Friday?
Yep. Yeah, that's. I mean, like I said, me and you already bought tickets, so we're going to the damn thing. But it's gonna be interesting. It's fun to be a part of the first. Obviously, this will be the first Battle of the Belt, so it'll be fun. But it's just gonna be. It's just got a sour taste in my mouth that I was looking forward to this show. Having a first event, and yeah, it's a 1-hour show. Just kind of let me down a little bit. But
what time is the show starting, if I may?
I believe at 8.
So it's going to go from 8 to 9?
I believe either that or 7 to 8. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's at.
So I think the bell time is 7, but what's probably going to happen is 7 to 8 is going to be like dark, and then 8 to 9 will be Battle of the Belts, and then 9 to 10 is going to be Dark Elevation. Probably is If that,
The only thing I can think of is doesn't the NBA still run on TNT? The only thing I can think of is the Heat versus Suns play at 9 o'clock that night. Now they haven't listed the TV station it'll be on, but I'm assuming it's going to be on TNT. So maybe
do they run basketball on TNT on Saturdays?
I mean that's the only thing I can think of, unless it's going to be on
ESPN,
ESPN. But
either way, it'll be interesting. If we kind of make this more of a weekly routine or something like that, maybe we'll have more updates regarding that as we get to it and try to cover Battle of the Belts as we do it. I'd like to do some live reactions too, whether pay-per-views or rampages or dynamites. Either way, it would be nice to do that and kind of just do some fun stuff. That's really all the topics that I have for tonight. Does anybody have anything else?
Wow,
well, you know what? I'll end on this. As much as we've been talking about AEW, I'm glad on my little graphic here we covered all 4 companies in some sort of aspect tonight. So that was very nice. I will leave with this. Very impressed with the Roman Paul Heyman storyline. Appreciate that. That was actually well done. I think a lot of people were thinking maybe Heyman would turn on Roman, but I'm glad it went the other way around. Roman's the true heel. You can't have Brock be in that position like that. I wonder if this heel turn Roman to Paul, obviously that puts Paul back to Brock. Does Heyman then in turn, is this all a ploy by the bloodline to have Heyman turn on Brock at day 1 and go back to Roman, giving Brock a false sense of hope that he has leverage going into the title match. Yeah, Roman has Usos in his corner, but Heyman is in Brock's corner. Does that kind of give Brock the false sense of hope that Heyman's back on my side? I have the one up with his brains, but does Heyman turn on Lesnar? Go back to Roman.
Interesting question.
That's possible. I did like that that angle. I didn't watch it live. Obviously, I don't really care for SmackDown. But I woke up Saturday and saw it like trending on Twitter. And looked into it. It was actually done really well. I'm surprised Paul Heyman actually agreed to take a bump at his size and age. And it was actually really good. Yeah, I don't like Roman's new T-shirt, but that's for another episode. But no, let's end on
comment. Don't even say it.
let's end on this. Coming into 2022, let's make a prediction now. One thing in 2022 that we either expect to happen or want to see happen in 2022.
Hey, bud.
Yeah.
It was a fucking host of the show.
You asked if we had any ideas.
Oh, you're right. I apologize. Right. Continue.
So, back to what I was saying. Let's end on that. What's one thing in 2022 that you expect to happen or want to see happen?
You just stop banging on that fucking table because it's reverberating.
You go first. Big shot. See,
yeah, buddy.
Came up with the idea.
All right, I'll go first. I want to see more emphasis in the AEW women's division. And I know every podcast that we've ever done, we've said that, but like, honestly, like they get like one match a freaking week, it seems like, on main television. Like Rampage might occasionally show one, but like on, and I guess more specifically, I'd like to see someone like Chris Statlander get more time, not in a team setting, like as a singles star, to show her work. I think she's more than deserving to win the title sometime soon. Her and Anna Jay and maybe even Tay Conti at some point, but more emphasis on the AEW women's division. Kind of either with the move with this TBS title to showcase them more, or make them matter more than what it seems like they do in the current atmosphere.
I'll let you go there, Randall. What you got?
He said what we want to happen or what we
Either or, what you want to see or something that you think.
I don't really want to see anything like that. I don't think honestly, I don't think anything changes in the industry. I can tell you what might happen. I believe I think it was either yesterday or today. I read an article that The Rock is now in line to buy WWE. That he wants a group of investors to come with them. I think that leads very well for a company like Disney to buy them. Of course, you have NBC, Disney in line right now looking at buying. Here's what it is: Nick Khan will take over WWE this year. I absolutely agree. He's in line. Vince will give him the company before he gives it to Steph or Triple H. And Nick Khan he comes from the world of business, not necessarily wrestling, and so he's strict on money. And I think he's setting up the company to be sold. When I don't know, who I don't know, I don't really necessarily. I think it makes more sense for Disney to do it. But yeah, I think WWE, nothing's going to change. AEW, to me, I don't think nothing really changes presentation wise. It worked for them, for the most part. To go comment on James's point, but all wrestling needs to focus more on women. It seems like the women's revolution sort of has died down. I mean, even on WWE now, I mean, Naomi just had a 3-minute match. I mean, Charlotte Flair's throwing pies at Tony Storm right now. Like, the only real emphasis in WWE, since you guys really don't watch it, is in the in NXT. But with NXT being developmental again, I mean, they're throwing 20 characters at you every week. There's a lot to pick up on. I mean, obviously, Cora Jade's going to be one of the main features. She'll be women's champion here soon. But I guess the thing that I expect to happen would be Nick Khan taking over. And I guess we could say Battle of the Khans. Not really, but
Interesting. I want to see a couple things happen. Chris Statlander needs to win the female Owen Hart tournament. She deserves a belt, but I guess we're not going to get that. So the Owen Hart tournament would be nice. And then I also would like to see Jungle Boy become TNT champion or world champion. I know it's a big step up there, but
and by big, you mean he's the smallest motherfucker in the fucking roster.
That's a lie. Marco's son is. Watch your mouth. I think Jungle Boy has got such a massive following behind him, and I think that he has grown exponentially in these last couple of years in the pro wrestling scene for sure. If JR would get his damn name right, we'd be fine. Stop calling him Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Let's just call him Jungle Boy. Just call him Jungle Boy, Jack. Damn it, Jim. Call him Jungle Boy. Turn the Jungle Man, banging Anna J. Anyways, hope your radiation treatments are going well, Jim. Get well soon. Yeah, I would like to see Jungle Boy win a championship in 2022, preferably the TNT title. I think the world title might be a little bit too quickly. And Chris Statlander winning the women's Owen Hart tournament. What I think, or what I expect will happen, is that we're going to get another part-time champion in 2022 from the WWE side, whether it's Brock, Goldberg. I hope not. And I also think on the AEW side, we will see the Adam Cole turn with the storyline against the Young Bucks and the Elite. And it wouldn't surprise me if MJF wins a world title in 2022. I expect to see that. I think his run as the heel definitely is going to be coming here. What's the one I'm looking for? Culminating into a world title run in 2022. But we shall see. Those are some good points there, and I know we threw a lot at you, and I appreciate.
Well, before you end, I just thought of something else. I would like to see Brian Danielson have a title match that doesn't end in a draw.
No.
Well, I think that's Danielson's thing right there. Is he's going to put over whoever he.
My problem is it worked with Omega because you were exposing his weaknesses so that Adam Page could win. But to me, it ruined Adam Page's title run if he can't beat Bryan Danielson. Who else can he beat? I mean, I don't think he's a realistic. I don't think he should be champion right now. I think he just came out of nowhere after being with.
But see, that's the great long term. That's the greatest story.
I get the
AEW
long
had.
term. I get all that shit. But the motherfucker was just fucking jobbing with the fucking Dark Order as a gimmick, and now he's world champion.
That was part of
there's no like it would have made more sense to me to hey, I'm gonna go win the TNT title for Brody because he's still the greatest TNT champion to ever have the belt. I'm gonna go win that for Brody and then turn on the Dark Order and have some character development in the now, not the 2 years to battle Omega. I mean, to me, it was just, hey, I'm gonna job with the Dark Order. Hey, now I'm world champion.
I mean, Sting literally showed up like once and had a title match. I mean, that's the great point of
my whole thing is presentation wise. Presentation.
Why I got to bring him into it?
Presentation wise, it's not like, to me, they're putting on matches for the sake of having matches, and to me, that's not good presentation. You could talk shit about all you want about people in WWE getting random title opportunities, but at least they build them for the most part.
I think the whole issue with the Dark Order, and we're rambling here at this point, but the whole part of him joining or cooping up with the Dark Order was the start of the Dark Order turning face. And you couldn't just turn a heel staple like that face just out of nowhere. You had to.
But they did. The second Brody died, they turned him face. And I hate to say that like so cold, but they had to make them face right away as a way to honor Brody in a way. That way they weren't just forgetting about him. So they immediately turned them face because they had to do the memorial show where all of them were crying for good reason. And heels don't cry on TV. So,
well,
Triple H cried when Eddie Guerrero died.
But they use that for a storyline.
What?
The shittiest thing they could ever. They use Eddie's death for a storyline for Ray, which is the shittiest thing they could have ever done in the fucking.
That was fucking stupid. I love Ray, and
I disagree with you. I think Hangman.
He did not deserve to be champion. I'm sorry.
It was his time.
It was not his time. He was a fucking jobber. He jobbed his entire. He lost to Jericho and immediately went to jobbing in tag teams.
His and Omega's run as a tag team champion, so it's quite honestly pretty good.
I'm not saying it wasn't, but he was sitting by, like, he was doing skits. To me, that's not world championship available. Like,
The Miz and Morrison did a weird ass music video.
See that statement right there is going to be the synopsis for my episode on why the Attitude Era was trash. We'll get into that later, but I will agree that I think that the chase sometimes is a lot better than the championship run.
Which is my whole thing with Moxley / Dean Ambrose. He was a great chaser. He sucks at being a champion.
Anyways.
Topic for a different day. One last study that I would like to see in 2022 is for the, and we're going to get a good zoom in tight shot here, is for the Washington football team to be called the Washington Wolves. Not going to happen. Going to be very disappointed.
For Vince Russo to be head booker of some company.
All right, now we're just.
What?
That's where we end the show right there. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
One last thing about emphasis on women's wrestling, though, and then I'll shut up. One, Impact Wrestling, as of now, seems to be the only company that puts any real emphasis on their women's division. But that's soon to change in the next couple of months with the CBS venture of what the hell is it called again?
Women of Wrestling.
Women of Wrestling, yeah. Coming to CBS sometime soon. I don't know a specific date if they come out with one. Tessa Blanchard seems to be the face of that company right now. She's in all the media stuff. It's being run by the co-owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. So, there's some money behind it. And we'll see how that turns out. That'll be something cool in 2022.
If they're
So
going to
you're
be featured
telling-
on the CBS network.
Oh, so
and not
you mean that
CBS
in
Sports Network,
2022? So you mean that in 2022, my statement that an all-woman show cannot draw in America will come true?
We shall see.
There's no interest behind it. Evolution failed. The show that Mickey James put on failed. There's no one cares about it unless there's brawn panty matches for 4 hours. Which is why the Attitude Era was so great.
Which is why the Attitude Era was trash. Thank you again for joining me, both of y'all. I appreciate it very much, very greatly. You guys were great and great discussions. I kind of went with the flow on this show, so I appreciate it.
Can
We
you
kinda had
send
some
me the
flow.
audio so I can post this on
I will
my
surely
show?
do that, sir.
Perfect?
Once this thing gets done, I will do that.
All right.
Thank you
It's gonna
both
take
for
about
joining
18
me.
hours, but
Yeah, well, it's gonna be fun. Thank you both for joining me on tonight's episode. Definitely do appreciate that. Thanks, James, for letting me use your earbuds. Hopefully you wash them beforehand. You need to wash them again. Probably won't have another episode or anything until after Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
happy Hanukkah
to
if
all
you
of
celebrate
that
Kwanzaa.
celebrate. And this is where
My
we get
God.
kicked off YouTube.
We went 2
Why we
hours.
wait till the very end to get kicked off. With that being said, hope you guys have a great night. Have a great holiday season. We shall see you guys very soon. Another edition of Beyond the Curtain Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Cody. You can follow me on Twitter at BTCPod18. Follow and subscribe the YouTube